Hassan Reddick just brought it back up. And after the game last night, he said, talk is cheap. They get to come back in the link. It was a lot of boo-hoos last year, a lot of crying, a lot of what if, a lot of this, a lot of that. They get a chance to come back in here, line that bleep up, and prove it again. I mean, he didn't really take a cheap shot at the 49ers. He didn't say anything incorrect or disrespectful, but he picked at the wound. He started the conversation again. And I think it's interesting. Do you think the Niners are going to someone's going to ask about it? What do you think what Hassan Reddick said?
Well, I mean, teams and players that have talked about the Niners haven't fared well this year. Right? We have what's the guy's name on the damn Steelers was talking trash. And then he wasn't able to
Patrick Peterson.
Patrick Peterson, right? So I think if I'm a player in the NFL, I'm not talking, especially about the Niners. They're a good team. And now the Niners did do a lot of talking themselves, but the Eagles did too after the Super Bowl. They had a bunch of excuses and complaints and whines and cries as well. So
they did.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's natural. I think this game, man, I can't wait for this game. This is the best game of the season, maybe better than the Eagles and Chiefs game. Honestly, just because of all the animosity, everything that's at stake. This game is going to be fantastic. I imagine it's going to be really chippy from the get-go. A lot of retribution on the line for the 49ers. I like that he's talking. I think that's going to fire the 49ers up even more. Not that they really needed it. They should have a huge chip on their shoulder after this game coming back against the Eagles. But I like that Hassan Reddick is talking. Just a little bit more motivation for these Niners.
Don't you think it's interesting that the first Eagles player to talk crap this week is Hassan Reddick?
Yeah.
If we remember, he was the one who knocked out Purdy. He's the one who essentially ended the season for the 49ers, and the Niners all said, well, that play was fluky. And which is downplaying his impact. In addition, Niners never seemed like they took him seriously calling that play, asking Tyler Kroft to block Hassan Reddick like he's just any edge rusher. So I think it's kind of interesting. It's like you can downplay that win, but you're essentially downplaying Hassan Reddick again, which is why you lost that game, because you didn't take him seriously. And now he's calling you out. What are you going to do? Are you going to take him seriously and make him look worse than he is? Or are you going to let him ruin your game again? I think that's interesting as Reddick.
Did he have a sack against the Chiefs? I'm trying to remember because there was a statistic. He did, right?
He did. Yeah.
So there's a statistic going around. I think me and you talked about it. We texted about it. I think Hassan Reddick's had 27 sacks in the last 27 games or something like that. Like he makes sacks at the right time, and he got one on Purdy, and they put him out into the season for those guys, put Brock Purdy in the surgery room. I mean, that's got to be on the 49ers' mind. It's got to be on Brock Purdy's mind coming into this game, and having Hassan Reddick talking headed into it just puts a little bit more fire under the butts of the 49ers. I cannot wait for this damn game, man. This is going to be a game of all games, man. I just cannot wait for it. It's interesting that the 49ers are favored. I'm actually a little surprised about that. They're 1.5 points favored coming into this game, away game in Philadelphia, going against a team that's 10-1 when they're 8-3. That's a little surprising. But I'm glad to hear the Vegas thinks we're going to win. I hope we are too. I conducted a poll, man, on my Twitter, and mostly Niner fans, and probably a lot of homer takes. But I think 62% of Niner fans think that the 49ers are going to win this game. And I think it's 25% or 50-50. That's where I'm at kind of right now. I'm 50-50, 60-40 Niners. Not really sure. It's going to be a close game. And we'll see how as the week develops and we learn more things. There's a lot of injured players on the Eagles, which could play a part in this game. They're beat up right now, and the Niners are pretty damn healthy. But yeah, man, I like the trash talk. Keep doing it. And I hope we get more out of it from the Eagles. I suspect we'll hear a couple things from the Niners this week as well.
Yeah, I'm just interested to see Hassan Reddick versus Colton Kivitz. It's going to be an interesting matchup.
Yeah.
And last year, the Niners were so fixated on trying to expose James Bradbury, who's not that good. He can't cover Brandon Ayuk. But to do so, they took for granted Hassan Reddick. And I want to see how they attack him this week, or at least prevent him from ruining the game, because they do a good job against Micah Parsons. They do a good job against Aaron Donald. When they face a defensive lineman who they really identify as a game wrecker, they essentially don't let him wreck the game. But I think the issue with Hassan Reddick is he was on the Cardinals They didn't really respect him when he was in the division. He goes to the Eagles, and I think they still have the same idea of who he is. I don't know if they even look at him as an elite pass rusher now. He is. All you got to do is treat him with the same respect that you treat Micah Parsons, and you should be able to light this defense up. It's not a great defense. Gives up a lot of passing yards. But
they're definitely going to be aware of Hassan Reddick this time around. That much we do know. They're not going to be sleeping on him at all this time. That much we do know. I can guarantee that. And the 49ers are good at getting the ball out quickly. Brock Purdy's really good at that. I think outside of maybe the Dolphins and Tua, I think Brock Purdy's second in that regard, I'm pretty sure, or close to it as far as getting the ball out quickly. And they're going to have to do that against the Eagles this coming game. The Niners and the Eagles are both playing the best teams that they played so far this year. The Eagles are by far the best team the Niners have played, and I think it's vice versa. I think the Niners are the best team the Eagles have played. So they both need to be respectful of each other's strengths, but also capitalize on the weaknesses. And the Eagles do have a couple weaknesses.
I don't think it's as simple as just getting the ball out quick, though, because that's the Jimmy Garoppolo offense. That's the I'm terrified of my quarterback and offensive line. Let's just get the ball in Debo's hands and pray for the best. To me, what makes Brock better is that he's more willing to push the ball down the field than Jimmy ever was. And he takes full advantage of Brandon Ayuk, where Jimmy never was on the same page with him. And Brandon Ayuk, I mean, he's averaging like 14, 15 yards before the catch this year. Yeah. So if they can't block Hassan Reddick, then they can't get the ball to Brandon Ayuk where he's dangerous. And they're not as good of an offense. So, I mean, I think a lot comes down to taking him seriously, giving Brock some time, and letting Brandon Ayuk destroy a bunch of 30-year-olds in the secondary. That's an old secondary, man. He can make James Bradbury look ridiculous if they call defensive holding, which they didn't last night.
I'm going to say some of this for when we talk about the Eagles' weakness, but I think you're kind of hitting on it right now. That is the Eagles' weakness.
We're going to talk about that for sure.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. I'll save it for that.
Dave Barclay says, "What up, Grant and Ryan G Money again? What up, Dave Barclay?
What's up, buddy?
I feel like I know Dave."
Yeah,
Christian Ayala says, "Here's $2." Do you ever see Dirty Work?
Dirty Work.
Norm Macdonald. It's one of my favorite comedies.
I don't remember.
I think it costs about $300. It's like they're like a revenge for hire business, and they just play stupid pranks on people. And so one prank I don't know if it was a prank, but they got a couple of like homeless people to go into a government building and cause a scene, and they paid him $2, and they come back out and pay him. And the guy's like telling his whole life story. And he's like, I don't know where my life went wrong. It could have been when I was at my kid's soccer game. And Norm Macdonald goes, "Here's your $2." Anyway,
I'm gonna have to refresh myself on that one. I think I've seen.
Here's your $2.
I used to work at Blockbuster Video when I was like 20, and so I've seen every movie before like 2000. I've seen it. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Keith Murphy, the Unbeaten, says surprise Vegas is bettering on SF. I think a lot of people like betting on the Niners. I don't think the money line necessarily reflects who's going to win. I think it's trying to even out the bets. So there's an even amount on each side.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that.
People believe in the Niners. They've been beaten up on teams. Moises Rosales says, "I'm conflicted whether Kyle will learn from his mistake blocking Reddick with the tight end. What do you think are some solutions? Playing the gun more, double team Reddick possibly." I mean,
they just got to have those hots ready, and Brock's got to read them. But that is a concern of mine, right? I definitely think they're going to be respecting Reddick this time, and they're not Croft's not obviously not going to be blocking him. But if you watch the breakdowns by JT O'Sullivan, he breaks down the 49ers film excellently. And one of the things he's been talking about all year, if you watch those breakdowns, is they'll just be blown blocking assignments. Like a lot of Brock Purdy's sacks that he's taken are just straight blown blocking assignments. And that's his biggest gripe in regards to Kyle Shanahan and this offense. So I'm not sure whether it's Kyle or whether it's Brock or both, and their ability to communicate, or Brock's ability to call audibles in regards to the blocking assignments. But it's been a big problem, and I hope they figure it out before this Eagles game. And I mean, they got to be respecting Hassan Reddick and that pass rush over there after what happened last year. I would hope.